Panel discussion, that is digitalization of procurement leveraging tech for better availability of market rates. For this, I would like to introduce our moderator for the session, Mr. Hanumat Sastry, Vice President Procurement and Sourcing VIP Industries Limited. Mr. Hanumat Sastry is result-oriented supply chain leader with comprehensive exposure in managing the supply chain uncertainties. He is specialized professional in efficient sourcing and procurement to control cost, inventory optimization to improve service level, and effective designing of large-scale distribution and transportation network, applying tactical planning to boost productivity to achieve ambitious supply chain KPIs, transforming supply chains with digitization, leveraging cross-functional collaboration and organization structure to augment operations. Along with that, I would like to introduce all the panelists, Mr. Sandesh Paturi, co-founder and Chief Business Officer, Venwiz, Ms. Nidhi Hasija, Business Leader, Microsoft, ISV and SAS Partnership, Microsoft. Mr. Manoj Pandey, Associate Vice President, Procurement, Alkem Laboratories. Mr. Senthil Arasu, Associate Vice President, Procurement, HDFC Life. Mr. Devarajan Iyengar, Head Rapid Deployment, APAC Procurement, Bayer. Mr. Sandeep Mehta, Vice President, EPC Procurement and Contracts, Paradigm Realty. Can we have a huge round of applause for all the panelists and our moderator?
So I'm Sastry. I'm moderating this. I come from a background of both FMCG and pharmaceutical environments. I think I started my journey in the supply chain way back in 2000, and I'm connecting back to this topic. At that point of time, it was an institute from where I belong to, and Procter & Gamble did a very big reverse auction event. And one of my batchmates was the part of the whole Southeast East Asia event. And it was one of the fabulous and most discussed projects at that time, almost 25 years ago. And one of the case, and it was there all over in the campus, oh my God, kind of stuff. And then took up the role in a pharmaceutical giant and found only there that the conventional modeling is still there, deep-rooted, almost for 8-9 years. No major improvements in this area of price discovery, rates discovery, and suddenly it had started happening that how do we compare with the competitors, benchmarks, and then a lot of imports data. I mean, in those days, about 15 years ago, I think largely the imports data used to be the only way, and that used to be the point of the comparison for obtaining the market rates. As a procurement professional, if we don't have a visibility on the market rates, it's gone case. And especially how competitors are buying, obviously it's gone case further. So how do we have? Obviously the imports data used to be one of the key differentiators, and it used to be in the KRAs of the professional teams. And gradually times have been evolving where we started seeing the Uberization of the prices. Suddenly, the ocean freights have started becoming open to one and all. And then even the regular freights, like say companies like Black Buck, companies like Jinka, right? And many more startups have started coming with a lot of venture capital investments into that. And there the journey started. How do I compare my price with my competitor's price or even market's price? Is that really a good price that I am buying? And from those times, I have started seeing the digitization truly hitting the supply chains and procurement. And the best that I could see is IBM come up with Watson, kind of a soft, it's an AI-enabled application for price forecasting for flour in a bakery major. Right, I know. Yeah, results could be as much as what we all can think of. One decision of MSP, minimum support price, a political decision, entire forecasts goes for a toss. But that's where the efforts of the industry I have been seeing in discovering the right prices for the organizations using the technology, and from nowhere to this much, we have been graduating, and this is where part to be very glad to be part of this important aspect of the discussion. And welcome to all my panelists. And would like to have their perspectives in this specific area in the coming 40-45 minutes. How they do see what sort of important areas that we need to really see. So we'll start with this. Are all we ready? Nidhi is there. Yeah, hi Nidhi. So I think this is the first area, being the tech savvy, I think you are the best starting person for us. I think the real time and artificial intelligence are the most keywords of the Google search in the area of procurement today, right? How do you see obtaining the market rates using the platforms that we have? Of course, thousands of platforms are there. How do you see that the technology is helping the organizations in this at a very, very broad level? Yeah, Nidhi, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sastry. So, one of the famous quotes that we have been hearing is that Gen AI is here. So, what we used to talk about digitization around 5 to 7 years back, when we said we'll digitize the procurement, the supply chain, the inventory level identification, real-time view. So, I think real-time is now evolved into a very different language now. Real-time is something we take it a little bit of granted that yes, this is the view we will see, right? But in the last 2 years, the pace has been phenomenal. So technology, the change that happened in last 100 years in technology, we are saying that it will be much less than that will happen in the next 10 years. So that is a huge testament to it. And it's just 2 years back when generative AI was launched, and we all didn't understand how it will impact us and how it will bring to us. But the adoption that we have seen in last 2 years is phenomenal. And if you just search for procurement and Gen AI, just those two words already analysts are proposed showing phenomenal adoption in procurement for this. Specifically in the developing economies, we see from a Microsoft standpoint, procurement is one of the top use cases. Procurement, contract lifecycle management, and supply chain management. These are the top 3 use cases we are seeing evolving on generative AI capabilities. Now again, generative AI is a very broad term. What does it mean? So there are two distinct things that are coming out. One is, if you would have heard, Copilot is something, like we used to say earlier, we'll Google it out, right? Now the new verb that Microsoft has launched is Copilot. So what does Copilot mean is, while there is a lot of digitization, there is a lot of data that we have today, but in the overall end-to-end process, there are a lot of gaps that that we see in the process. So for example, I take the example of contract lifecycle management. Today you will hear about from one of our top partners, iCertis, we have in the room. iCertis offers contract lifecycle management, and we are seeing phenomenal successes and ROI gains for customers who are going for contract lifecycle. So in US, this is a top selling product that we are seeing. And what is happening is that in erstwhile days, contracts were legal terms which only a top few people understood. There was a lot of rut work around it. There was a lot of work. But once you have something like a co-pilot or an assistant to help you through the process, it not only makes it easier for you, but it also fills in the gaps between the entire end-to-end process, right? So how do we bring co-pilots for us? And what does a co-pilot mean? It just makes the mundane job out for every process and helps you bring out the intelligence part of it so that you don't spend hours working on the same job. So that is what is going to change. And the second part of this thing is the language model. So large language models are helping simplify things in a human language possible. So instead of everyone knowing the detailed legal term for a particular thing, you can take assistance from a co-pilot or a language model to talk in a human possible language. So this is one of the big change that is coming, and I think we can be one of the early adopters and leaders in India from a geography perspective to take it forward. Second change is skilling part. So there's a huge, in every area of our sphere, we see skilling as a difference, as a problem. And if we see Gen X, so I was talking outside, people were talking about their kids working, studying in universities and all. So today's generation, even my kids, they are almost in class 12 now, but they don't want to sit down, go through a document of 20, 200 or 100 pages and say, okay, this is what is not right, this is what I will take as a summary of the document. That is not happening because the kids again have a evolution, and they want, the Gen Z want to look at they're going up in the Maslow's hierarchy. They want to do only the value added work there, right? So co-pilots are helping that skilling part, the augmentation part as well for our workforce. So as you build the future teams for yourself, look at a view that not only what is the task at hand that I'll automate, what is the team I want to build around it, and how do I empower that team to take these tasks to fruition. So that is a very important thing, and I think we are here to change the world. So thank
Superb.
you.
I think I know Microsoft has been giving us a lot of features, including the ERP like Dynamics, right? So I think a hell lot of developments they have been, and I hope there would be a day where you will just type, give me the raw materials and send a mail to some chat box and from the Outlook, and it will throw the entire universe in front of you. Great, Nidhi. I think Sandeep, you would like to speak on the same area from a perspective point of view. Where are we heading to from this, especially from a price discovery point of view in the digitization? Because this is carved out rightly. You have some perspective opening points.
Okay. Thanks, Hanuman, and thanks, organizers, to invite me. First of all, as Nidhi said, the world is changing very fast. What's happening with the Gen Z kids, Gen Z consumers, they are the main people who are basically boosting the demand, and they want to have a perfect selection. So in any business, what matters is the agility, whether it's a pharmaceutical business, whether it's automotive manufacturing, whether it's a real estate. The person the organization who's agile and who's able to respond to the changing needs of the end consumer faster, that organization is always going to win, is always going to have more and more profit as well as the market share. So the tools like AI, it helps a lot in terms of understanding the market trend, understanding the consumer preferences, understanding the price changes, whether it's for the end product or whether it is for the raw material. It helps you. So the entire process of capturing the data, analyzing the data, and presenting in a readable form is done by all these modern tools. And that is what is required for any decision maker to make a right decision at a right time. And that's what is important. Also, it is important, also tools are helping you to understand what's happening in the market, what your competitors are doing, what kind of product mix are going to change, or it's happening, or what kind of preferences, consumer preferences are changing. So I always believe that derby race is not fought only with a good horse or a good jockey. You need both the people, right? With a good horse, if you don't have a good jockey, naturally you're not going to win. So both are complemented to each other. So although these tools are available, it is giving you a right set of information in a quickest manner. At the same time, you will need a business wisdom. You will need a business insight. So those insights are given by the AI tools, and you need a right decision makers at a right place to quickly take the decision and move ahead in the career, move ahead in the competition. So I'll foresee that these tools are going to help you, but at the end, the entire supply chain or entire organization success is also dependent on the business leaders who are going to make a right decision. tool can recommend you possible decision, decision 1, decision 2, decision 3. But out of that, which decision to take based on your past experience, based on your risk-taking capabilities, based on your appetite to absorb all the shocks coming in the business, that is what the business leader will have to take a call. And the more refined AI becomes, more we are disciplined enough to input all those past examples into the data. Going forward, few years down the line, we will have more and more richer, better recommendations coming from the tool. And that's what is going to help. And at the end of the day, it's a jungle rule. Whoever is more stronger, more agile, and more faster, that organization, those leaders are going to win. So these are my thoughts, and I would welcome anyone to discuss.
Thanks, Sandeep. I think excellent thoughts from Nidhi and Sandeep. That to just sum up so far, I see a lot of value add in terms of commoditization of the skill gaps that we have today. I think the discovery of market rates, as it is not as easy as one thinks from outside procurement, and it involves a lot of work, number one, and a lot of skills. How do you get that? I think the commoditization of this skill is on the way, is the key summary point. And it also, by the way, helps to expedite the process gaps discovery process, by the way. Thanks, Sandeep. With the determination of the organizations, we say tomorrow morning, we decided to go ahead with one of the many applications available. I would request Dev, you to suggest what would be a success criteria for selecting a right partner, because many of us belong to a conventional manufacturing industries, and selecting out of thousands of organizations, right, the one which suits us. What could be a successful criteria for this?
Thanks, Hemant, for that question. For the audience here, Devarajan lyengar, I represent Bayer, which is into the healthcare space, and very nice to have the kind of panel discussion out here. Digitalization, from my personal point of view, is a fantastic enabler for procurement professionals. The very fact that procurement professionals have a significant challenge in their day-to-day tasks, where you talk about timeline pressures, you talk about cost-saving targets, you talk about supplier reliability, and at the same time you have volumes of transactions to work on, you cannot get away from the fact that you cannot have digital as part of your procurement strategy. So you need to have it. In Bayer, we have been a very progressive organization in terms of the digital mindset. And just to give a context to what I'm trying to say here before I come to the selection part, we were very clear from our digital strategy in 2006, where we said that we need to come up with an e-procurement platform enabling the buyer community and the supplier community to have a kind of a common platform to engage, not just from an information processing perspective, but also look at it from a holistic perspective. Because we are talking about here not just the price discovery, we are talking about also vendor evaluations. We are talking about supplier relationships. We are talking about compliance topics where there could be, let's say, whistleblowing opportunities from a supplier fraternity to protect with. So look at a digital strategy from an end-to-end holistic perspective as a procurement function is one of the first aspects I would like to emphasize. Coming to the price discovery part, like for example, before even going to price discovery, I saw the vendor discovery part in project procurement being shared in the previous engagement by Venwiz as one of the eye-openers. This has been an unmet need for a project procurement professional, right? Time and again, you've always had this challenge of vendor discovery, where we are talking about a localized vendor who could still be able to be given up a significant project procurement opportunity. And there it used to always be a classical pre-qualified suppliers that we used to have in our Excel sheets. But now you have an AI-based enabler that could give you additional vendor discoveries from the market perspective. From a price discovery perspective, reverse auction has been a very standard kind of a tool that we have been trying to explore with, depending on the product community that you're talking about. When it comes to logistics kind of spot buying, where you have multiple supplier partners and price can be a commodity and you don't know what's the best price that you could source in the toolkit is reverse auction. So coming back to what could be the right partner to partner with when it comes to digital enabler in your functional strategy, I would say the first thing is to have a very cross-collaborative engagement with IT organization. Why do I say this? procurement would come up with their unmet needs in terms of their unmet problems. Like, for example, if we say that I have significant large volumes of low transactions where it's difficult for me to do sourcing, I need to have a supplier partner in the digital space who could support me in that space. That's my functional unmet need. But I may not have a technical mindset in terms of how do I select the supplier partner. So it's very important to have a very close, collaborative, cross-functional decision making along with our IT organization. So that's one perspective I would like to emphasize. The second aspect is the adoption of any digital tool depends on the interface, how user convenient it is. Is it a platform where you end up creating significant additional man hours, be it in your function or be it also with your supplier partners? The end result is going to be that the adoption rate is going to be absolutely low. When we launched our e-procurement platform in 2006, we went with an unconventional way of not going with existing ERP providers globally. We went with an Indian startup who were experimenting out in terms of a better user experience, both from a supplier fraternity and also from a buyer fraternity. And I'm very happy and proud to say that we were first of its kind to implement that way back in 2006 across buyer globally. And the adoption rate within 1.5 years was more than 75%, purely because the user experience, be it in terms of the graphical user interface, be it in terms of also giving their quotes very easily, was possible because the application was very easy to use. So first preference would be the user adoption is definitely dependent on the user experience. But it's just not the user experience, because the organization that you tie up with, you also have to understand that this is a long-term commitment in terms of the digital rollout. So how technically the organization is competent, be it with regards to cybersecurity, be it with regards to data processing laws, be it regards to the kind of information that you can get from that particular platform. Because eventually you're talking about significant number of data sets that's going into that platform, and you need to get inferences out of that. So data security, data protection law, cyber security, and also the validation of that particular organization in terms of the financial health check. Because there are significant number of startups who come up with this kind of ideations of the product that they have. But from a sustainable partnership, it's also important to see how we could engage with those partners whom we could rely upon from a long-term perspective. So that's also one of the criteria I would like to add. And there I would like to summarize here with a use case. We had this use case where we said globally in procurement we are running short of resources, but we have huge amount of small volume transactions that we need to deal with in the indirect procurement space. We do not want a price discovery, but we have a mandate of having payment terms being optimized globally across various supplier partners. So that was the use case that we had as a procurement professional. And then we tied up with IT, and IT came up with a very good idea that they said the transactions to be prioritized for these negotiations should be done through an RPA approach. Now, I'm not a technical expert, but what I'm trying to tell you is this is where IT comes in picture. They said that let's process the requirements of low volume transactions through an RPA approach. But in terms of negotiating those payment terms with the supplier partners, you don't have to do it. Let's introduce a chatbot and let the user interference with the chatbot, with the supplier partners, negotiate payment terms for you for those low volume transactions, which ideally you may not be even doing it because of lack of time. So to summarize this, what I'm trying to say is have a very close collaboration with your IT function. Ensure that user experience is not compromised, both from a buyer perspective and also from a supplier perspective. Tie up with a supplier partner who is financially stable, who can be sustainable in the long run. At the same time, do not compromise on cyber security and data privacy aspects, because it has a significant impact for the organization that you work with. That's my take on that particular framework.
Excellent, Dev. I think the points that you mentioned, differentiation, which categories to choose this platform to, right up to the chat box kind of portfolios. And also, I think cyber security you have touched. I think this is one of the key botherings. Like say, whenever we start this project, what if the associated company leaks the data? This is my procurement data, and I am doing possibly in the most legal way to get the competitors' data and the market data. What happens if this whole bunch of the efforts gets leaked because it's there ultimately in some form of a cloud or somewhere? I think this, genuine concern needs to be definitely addressed. Of course, the suggestion or the criteria would be more successful, as what Dave was saying, in terms of collaborating right from the day one, rather day zero with IT teams, so that there is a common objective. Thanks, Dave. I think that's the excellent perspective. Okay, fine. We have finalized a partner to choose with. There was one good auspicious day started. Senthil would like to understand from you what sort of integration challenges that would come up, because definitely a new software, a new platform, or a new application, right, is different from where we are today. I may be having SAP running today, I may be having Oracle running today, or JD, I mean any other ERP. And definitely I'm not choosing them and I'm choosing an alternative. So what sort of integrational challenges and how do we overcome typically from your experience?
So the digitalization made a big change in the way we work about 10, 15 years back, and now what we are looking into it. We're talking about a data-driven decision that we are going to make it and stuff like that. So it is always a welcome change and is good in future. Whatever the panelists were saying, we'll have a AI tool which runs the solution. So the challenges, one is we talk about the integration part. The timelines is something which is taking about 1.5 years for one ERP, any tool to be implemented, which takes the bandwidth of the people who need to be part of that one. Second one we talk about, so when we take onboarded tool A, and we say that, okay, we'll be working for them with a longer period of time, and we also end-to-end implementation, which includes the invoice processing as well, talking about the vendor to submit the invoices, RFP documents, from the RFP document to those POs, then the talk about the invoicing. So the challenge is that there may be say for an example, 50 odd tools, and the same vendors, big vendors, for an example, they said that, okay, I've been having 50 different types of username passwords. That is one of the biggest challenges. So one said, I don't want to submit it online, I'll send it to a mail. Please take it up. This one. Second, for the same tool, we'll have a different username password for different companies. So that's where it is some kind of the technology providers has to think through how we can able to unify it, or we can talk about some platform where everything can be submitted. Some kind of these kind of activities. When you talk about digitalization, yes, there are plenty of good things that we are able to say it. There may be some challenges in terms of supplier onboarding. From supplier onboarding, for an example, there is if a new tool has been onboarded, then we need to start, okay, there is either we do a small video clip and say that, okay, this is how this onboarding has to come, this is how all the small stuffs has to be included, unless we take up a existing tool. So that's where we are tying up with, we are getting stuck with, okay, so this tool has been used by many people. All the suppliers knows that how to upload the documents, how to submit the RFPs and stuff like that. That limits the new startup coming in. So these are my points, so the other people can also suggest certain stuff.
Senthil, absolutely. I think we as a country, 2017, when the country is moving towards the GST, one of the biggest risks organizations, especially procurement teams, really felt was, it's going into the public domain, and Sarkari Raj, the data is going to be digitized there too. And, on the backdrop of a lot of information leaks already happening by then, whether it is insurance data or any other data, how well this data was protected or protectable was one of the big concerns. The teams and we as a country successfully stood up to that challenge of integrating those systems. Today, I think most of the transactions are live, right? And with full of the data security, Government of India could establish. Now, coming from that gigantic area of GST rollouts and price information security to the times where integrational challenges when we are talking. I think more often it is a possibility in India, especially, it really doesn't matter whether you are using a Tally as a software or you are using an advanced procurement ERP, whatever it is. I think today the ability has enormously got developed within the country, within each of the organizations to cope up that challenge. I think thanks, Senthil. Sandeep, fine, we have done assessment and we chose one and we went ahead. fine, the data is now started streaming live, like say my price versus market price. And I have to rely that the price that is appearing on the screen is the most reliable and accurate. What sort of challenges that you see here in this dimension? And what if something, I start seeing the Brent crude in many of the widely available software, web pages, that's fine. But if there are certain, proprietary informations which are appearing on the screen with certain kind of technology-enabled buffers, and it is not it's not appealing to me because my price is 2x of the price. I don't know how my boss looks at me when I present this data. So how do I see the accuracy of this whole thing? How do I judge the accuracy of this data coming?
Thank you, Mr. Sastry. It's nice to connect back after a very long period, and pleasure to meet all my other panelists as well. So to this question, right, how do we ensure that the data that I'm getting is the right data, and how do I verify that? It actually needs to be seen in two parts, right? One part goes back to during your partner selection itself. So one thing we need to recognize is there's no single platform that brings you all the market pricing data or intelligence, right? It's very difficult to find that. And from our experience as Venwiz operating in the startup space and this data platform space, what we have seen is each different digital platform have developed their own capability to address their own categories, right? So it's very category specific. So if you want, say, commodities, who's the platform that has developed their capability in that? If you look at other buying, like equipment buying or specialized item buying, right? You need to look at other platforms. So different platforms give you, have built in different capabilities, and hence you should look at a wide range of options, right? Venwiz, for example, has done this for specialized buying, project buying, equipment buying, and so on, contract buying, and services buying, and so on, right? So that's first part. Don't be afraid to look at different platforms for different categories. The second one that you need to look at is the methodology of how they are capturing that data, right? Mr. Sastry, you spoke about the skill about commoditization of determining market prices, right? For some categories, this has already been done. Platforms have matured. For example, commodity pricing, if you look at how is that data flowing. So there are commodity exchanges, market rates. There are a lot of data sources available out there. Similarly, chemicals, specialty chemicals, raw materials, and so on, right? As the complexity of the product that you're buying increases, the data sources come down, right? So how are players getting those sort of data? What are the methodologies that they are adopting? Is it zero-based costing? Is it triangulation of pricing data from different sources? So spend time on researching their data collection methodology as well, right? So these two bits go back to the selection of the supplier stage itself. Now, once you have seen all this, along with what Dev has mentioned, then the third bit comes in data, that auditing that data, right? So you are now getting that price, and how can you audit that data? So one thing which we have found with most of our customers, and also when we talk in the market, right? Data triangulation is something that many people talk about. You have gotten some data from your partner. You keep verifying that regularly, right? Introduce new suppliers into your database. What is the data that they are bringing in? Similarly, do you have teams regularly working on costing of that data and so on? Look at specialized players, what is the data that they are bringing in, right? So these are some of the data audit methods. There are many other methods as well out there. It's standard data quality check framework, right? So I think in summary, there are some areas which go back to how you select your partner, and hence improve the data quality that they bring to the table. And the third bit is regular audits of that data, right? Work with your partners, work with your internal teams, develop that skill to audit your data and so on. So that's something I would say can help to some extent.
You want me to open up Sandesh Sastry model of DuPont Britannia Times? No, he used to be the supplier to Britannia, and there were many palm derivatives we used to buy, and often this criteria, what Sandesh just said, used to be the point of inflection. It used to be the flare-up of the discussions in the emails, in the heated discussions, in the one-on-one, of course, on the professional matters to arrive at the right price. How do we really identify this with the right price? Are we getting the right price or not? Both the sides have got their own logics. But I think it was a wonderful experience to deal with Sandesh, and I think your criteria had been consistent all the while. Thanks for that.
Thank you. One point I would like to mention here is most of the organizations, as I said, some data sources have matured, right? Like commodity pricing, palm oil or soybean, or chemicals like calcium carbonate, etc., etc. So these are the areas where things have matured. New platforms, new technologies, AI-driven technologies are coming in to help you in your niche buying as well, in your specialized buying, like equipment. What can I buy my services at, right? For example, one of the cases, the same civil building will have a completely different rate if you construct it in the north versus south, right? So how do you differentiate that, and how do I know my prices are correct? So the labor rates are different, the raw material rates are different. So for example, Venwiz does that. Venwiz is one platform which is into services buying and project buying, right? There are many others out there as well. So my request would be, don't be afraid to explore these new areas. As Nidhi said, things are changing very drastically, right? So many startups are out there to solve this problem. So pick one and go with them.
Excellent.
I'm going to just add one point of it. So when you're talking about a selection of a new partner, and moving from one existing partner to other partner, one of the major evaluation criteria has to be that how the data, whatever we had done it in the past, the existing system, how seamlessly and accurately can be transferred to the new tool. So most of the time it will be one of the folders, how that data can be utilized for the next set of processes. That's what one of the pointers which I want to add it up.
Excellent, Senthil.
One more point I would like to add, as he mentioned very clearly, is that whatever data, what you sanitize and whatever data you use it is important for a SaaS software also to have an inbuilt capability based on a user experience after your whatever project, whatever vendor you have selected, and after the project is over, the software should be able to again take the feedback in terms of the performance, timely adherence, quality, and these things. So the more you inbuilt give back data back to the system, the more next decision will be more refined. So the discipline of a user to input those data back into the system and then helping you again for your next procurement process is going to be the key factor.
Excellent. I think we have come to a beautiful end of this discussion where we are all agreeing to this point of view that the external benchmarking of the prices or internal reorientation of the pricing or cost modeling, wherever that you go today, organizations had been having the demanding ask on the procurement teams to get the right price. Now this right price is not necessarily to be the lowest price, but it is the right price where I am standing at, right? And I think in this whole journey of discovering this price, digitized technologies have been evolving. But I think the big thing is the criteria identified by the panel and the challenges involved in integrating across the platforms with the existing platforms, and then be cautious of the ways of working and analyzing the outputs of this whole thing is the key crux of this whole thing, right? And it really matters what you input is what you output, and many of us know garbage in, garbage out. If you have the Gen AI going to a kind of text picking up on a kind of a bombing on a particular city is likely to increase the crude and hence the increase in the PP, polypropylene, and hence there is a right increase in my plastics consumption or buying price in the upcoming months, could be a vision 2030 that I could see in my procurement's ambit. A little far from where we are today sitting, but I'm seeing the times are changing much, much, much faster. Would like to have a couple of questions, if possible, from any of the audience. Yeah, please.
Traditional procurement,
Would you like to use the mic so that everybody else can listen?
in a traditional procurement, it's a very simplistic process that we receive requirements from the end user, and then we process and then integrate with the suppliers. Now, as the current digitalization and technological procurement we are being discussed. So the most important link is the end user. We are integrating with suppliers, we are integrating with the IT, we are integrating with the cyber, these things. But most important critical element is end user. So say for example, end user gives us requirement of, best quality products. We go into the market and then search and then, we do the rest process of the entire procurement. But they never know that, say for example, suppliers, they give us the, just good enough quality of material at the optimum cost, which may serve our purpose. So instead of buying the best quality product, just good enough quality would be sufficient for our use. So in this way, the end user is, in isolation. The moment they give us the requirement, okay, buy the best quality product, we are buying. But if we integrate the end user while the procurement, as Mr. Sandeep said, the follow-up is the, we can take the feedback. But that's a kind of post-mortem will take place. So at the time of procurement, if we integrate the end user besides the supplier as well as the IT, will that be good enough for procurement?
I would request Nidhi to take up, and of course Sandeep. Yeah.
I'm hopeful that I'm clear in the...
Yeah. See, what you're talking is basically the difference between the quality and the reliability. Okay, quality is a first-time right, fit for the usage. Reliability is the fit for the usage over the lifespan, right? As you rightly said, we are here in the business to make customer delight. Most of the times we have seen that customers are knowing very clearly what they want, but they are not able to express that in technical terms or in their expectation forms. So what happens is that with the digitization and with the tools coming in, they are helping us to bring in the various possible options for a particular product, say steering wheel, okay? I am from automotive background, I've spent 18 years, so I'll give that example. Suppose a customer says, I want a steering wheel which is nice to touch, enough in a radius, which is enough to maneuver and this thing. But they will not give you a specific information. It should be 300 mm diameter, it should have a softness like this scale. They will not give you that. What software will help you is that doing the benchmarking across the various options available in the market, they will shortlist and present that information to the buyer or to the organization, which along with their engineering department, they will do shortlist and then go out in the market with a much refined these things. So software is anyway going to help you, and what matters to you is that, as you rightly said, the suppliers are interested in their profit. They will never like to do over-engineering, they will never like to offer something extra because they know they are not going to make money out of that. So you have to push the suppliers to give the best of the product with the least of the prices and with the specifications which are matching to the customers. So software is going to discover that specification, what is happening in the market, what other competitors are doing it, what is going to be a trend, they are presenting that to you and your engineering team. You rationalize this. With that specification, you have the possible target prices also coming in, and then you go and push the suppliers to give you in that particular specs and that price. I hope I am able to answer your questions.
I slightly refrain your question. Okay. So his question is that can we integrate or get a feedback of the particular product or particular activity done at the end of the procurement? So that is an experience that forms as a complete cycle itself.
Yeah, so just 2 points to what Sir said. One is the workflow that you said, the old workflow. So suppose when we have, let us say we go out a tender process or a contract process, so there can be a seller and a buyer. So one is the entire workflow has to go through a tool with the visibility at the right point in time. So it can, the buyer can say that, okay, this is what you're giving me as a contract when I'm looking at it, but these are the areas which are not fulfilled. So they can send it back to you. Right? And as a seller also, you should be able to say that in past, I brought out a contract with 10 clauses, out of which maybe 10 were not sufficient. So you have a template from past sitting in your system, you bring that out, and then you say, I want 2 more to be added, right? So both inputs are there, and also visibility. So as a legal counsel or someone who creates that overall framework, but the executioners are the people on the field. So there can be teams within, someone can be from a spare part team, someone can be from a refactoring team who brings back the spare parts, right? So everyone is able to see that in the system and then say that this is where the process is breaking. I think that is the eureka moment where we are all working towards. But yes, the inputs and the feedback loop is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think excellent. Yeah, we have come to the end of this discussion. You want to add something?
I just want to have one point to address, if it's okay, just 2 minutes, yeah. Because we are all procurement professionals and we have been talking about this price discovery and digital tool as an enabler for price discovery. And this is always one of the challenges for us, right? As procurement professionals, the entire organization feels that we don't buy it at the right price, come what may. Anything that you buy, they would say this is not the right price at which you bought. I just have one thing to share here. The price discovery or the decision to buy at a certain price, as you rightly said, the right price, is always the conviction of a procurement professional. Anybody can claim that we may not have bought it at the right price, but then the price is a factor of specification, demand, market dynamics, and the digital tools will be an enabler to benchmark the price. But eventually the price at which you buy, have a strong conviction that you have brought it at the right price. And let the organization not assume that we from procurement do not apply a strategic sourcing methodology. The price is a discovery of the strategic sourcing methodology, which has, again, demand consolidation, specification management, should be cost modeling, and the competitive buying at which you can buy, right? So I just want to reconfirm here that digital tools will be an enabler for a procurement professional, but not a replacement for a procurement professional. And that needs to be a very strong commitment from us towards the organization, because the organization cannot assume or take granted the work that a procurement professional does. Just want to bring that as one of the aspects of price discovery.
Dave, thanks. I think I summarized what you just said, that please respect boss, please respect internal auditors as well, right? So, thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, we have come to this.
To the honors, I would like to call Mr. Sachin Apte from Wellspun Group.